For more, I'm joined here in the studio by DW's Stacey Bivens. Good to see you, Stacey.
Hi, Terry.
Oh, that wasn't really much of a debate. I mean, we saw an almost civil cut there from the debate. It was more like a shouting match most of the time. Did we learn anything?
It was just really messy, very distracting, and it managed to thread the needle between being extremely boring at some points and then just being really stressful for the viewer and other points. But I think that was part of the strategy for Donald Trump because he's had a tough week with his taxes coming out and with the coronavirus and the fallout with the economy with the coronavirus. So I think that his strategy was to try to keep Joe Biden off his toes, like keep him off center and to distract him from the issues and confuse the rest of us. Of
course, the pandemic is foremost in everyone's mind right now, getting that behind us. Joe Biden was trying to press Donald Trump on his handling of the pandemic, but the president definitely pushed back. Let's take a listen.
But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did.
Well, Trump there saying Biden couldn't have done what he did to protect Americans in this pandemic. But, Stacey, did Biden say what he would have done differently in handling the coronavirus?
Well, he mainly focused on the fact that there weren't enough PPEs and that he would have made sure that that would have happened, that there had been enough funding for small businesses so that so many wouldn't have gone under. And then there would have been enough money to open up schools because it's expensive to keep them in line with the CDC guidelines. But one of the points that he did get in was, it says here, it is what it was because you are who you were. And that's talking about Donald Trump when we got to the 200,000 number and Donald Trump threw his hands up and was like, well, it is what it is. So Joe Biden was able to point out that this was Trump's economy and this was his handling of the coronavirus that has impacted so many Americans.
Now, the debate also touched on lots of issues, but including racial tensions and violence in the U.S. Here's one exchange on that.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing.
Obviously, a very contentious issue there, not just for the candidates, in the United States as a whole, reflecting those tensions. How did the two candidates, or the president and his challenger, approach the issue of race in this debate?
Well, I have to say that it's disappointing that a sitting U.S. president can't outright condemn white supremacy. And he refused yet again when he had the opportunity to do so. And he also didn't focus on why people were protesting in the first place. It's racial injustice. And we have people of various economic backgrounds, ethnicities, men, women, different ages, all marching because they see an injustice. And you can't tell people like my white brother-in-law, who's a teacher, who's marching for the rights of his two black sons, that there's something wrong with him, that he's a member of Antifa. Donald Trump also doubled down on this idea that he is the president of red states. The way he was talking about the Democratic governors and how they handle things, he focuses mostly on the red states, and he fails to understand or care that he's the president of all the United States, and that's an issue.
Trump's refusal to condemn, distance himself from white supremacists and condemn them, one of the main takeaways from this debate, I would say.
Absolutely.
Politics is incredibly polarized in the United States right now. Do you think that undecided voters watching this debate will have been swayed either way by what they heard?
I mean, this was pretty bad, right? This was a horrible debate, one of the worst I've ever seen. But I will say that if you were a Donald Trump supporter before, you are still a Donald Trump supporter. You felt like his tactics were good and that he showed how weak Joe Biden was. And if you're a Joe Biden supporter, you're still a Joe Biden supporter and you feel like he was thoughtful, and that's what you want to see in a president. The amount of people who are still undecided is so small. And I think that those people probably have an idea of who they would vote for. They just needed to have a little bit of a push to force them to go outside of their homes to the polls and vote.
Many are saying this is Joe Biden's election to lose. He is ahead in the polls right now, and many were hoping he wouldn't trip up too badly last night, which many say he did not. But anyway, Trump and Biden will face off two more times in televised presidential debates before the election, which is just a little more than a month away. Can we expect much of the same? You think we'll see anything different?
Let's hope it's not the same. This was really horrible. But what I will say is that one of the upcoming debates is a town hall, and that's where Joe Biden usually seems to shine because he's able to connect with people. And let's just see what happens, because Donald Trump is having so many problems now in the press with his taxes and so forth. So let's see if he brings forth a different strategy this time around.
Stacey, thank you so much for your analysis. DW's Stacey Bivens.
Thank you, Terry.